Tuning in to Think Tech Friday, we're raising public awareness about technology, energy, globalism, and diversification. I'm your host, Attila Seress. Today we have a very interesting topic. We're talking about the counter cloud argument. I bet you've heard a lot of hype about going to the cloud, and while that sounds great for businesses on the mainland, there are a number of danger signs from migrating your business or your organization to the cloud, and these challenges are unique to Hawaii. Joining us in the studio today is Jordan Silva. He's the Network Operations Manager for Integration Technologies, otherwise known as InTech, and he's been working in the managed services industry for a little over 10 years now. And of course, we have my good friend Freddy Ludiazo. He's the Sales Manager for Integration Technologies. Thank you guys for joining us in the studio.
No problem, my pleasure.
Now, if you do want to chime in and join the conversation, give us a call at 296-5467, 296-5467. And if you do want to join us in our downtown studio as part of our live studio audience, then send an email to Jay Fidel. He's the founder of ThinkTech. His email address is Jay, that's J-A-Y, at Fidel.com, Fidell.com. And of course, if you miss any part of the show, you can go to ustream.tv to check us out. You can see the video of this program, and Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com. Now those links are embedded on our website, and that's thinktechhawaii.com. So go to thinktechhawaii.com anytime, pick up any past episodes, or check us out live. Fun stuff, huh?
All right.
All right. So, before we jump into the conversation, I want to talk about the app of the week. Isn't that exciting? Now, I was showing it to you before the show. It's an app, and it's called I'm Stuck. I'm Stuck. So that kind of tells you what it is, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is that, say you're driving on the H1, and there's a rare occasion when there's traffic on the H1.
Really?
Really?
Never traffic there.
Never traffic on the H1.
And the speed limit is 6, right?
Yeah.
That's normally?
Then you are driving in the speed limit, and then you're just fine.
Then you're just fine.
But anywhere else that you might happen to travel, where there's a traffic situation better than ours, this app is called I'm Stuck, and I'm going to hold this up for the cameras. You can tap it and take a picture of your situation. So the idea is you take a picture, you say how you're stuck, and you get to choose from any number of things. So you can say you're in a traffic jam, you've been delayed by a bus, you're in an overcrowded transit space, and you put a little checkbox next to this. So I'm going to put a little checkbox here, and it pre-formats an email letter for you. And over here it says, "Dear Member of Congress, I'm stuck in traffic, wasting time, fuel, and money. All around me are trucks, commuters, and families delayed and frustrated. Please pay attention to America's ailing and inadequate infrastructure. It's important, it's your decision, and it's past time."
Wow.
And that's cool. And then over here it has your, it allows you to put in your Congress name, Congress people. So let's see who it comes up with here for Hawaii. I'm going to put in my capture. Oh, look,
There they are.
Senator Brian Schatz, Mazie Hirono, and Colleen Hanabusa. So I can now click their names 3 times and send them an email right away with a picture of my
Very
complaint.
interactive.
So it's a way for you to voice your frustration, right? I suspect they're going to be getting some emails after listening to this show. I apologize, you guys, but we do have to do something about our traffic situation here in Hawaii.
I agree.
And of
Totally
course,
agree.
the reason I chose this app is because it's related to our topic. And of course, today's topic is the counter cloud argument. Now, when I say cloud, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you think the cloud is, Jordan?
Right now, it's a generic term everyone uses to just say, computer's not in my office. And that sounds really cool. It's like, hey, I have all this cool stuff, and none of it's sitting in the corner over there making noise and taking up space. But in reality, it's a very broad term used to describe computing power stored somewhere, generally in a data center. Lots of computers connected to each other, so you can distribute load and things along those lines to create redundancy and all kinds of cool stuff that keeps businesses moving in day to day.
So getting data out of your office is what cloud is. Because I've overheard cloud. I've had people come to me and say, if you say the word cloud one more time, even if you're not talking about computer cloud, you're getting out of my office, right? Would you say it's an overused?
Oh yeah,
term?
definitely. By this point, everybody in the world has a cloud product they're selling because it's the cool thing. It's the cool kid on the block right
Yeah.
now. Everybody wants to be in the cloud, which means everybody wants to have their product in the cloud and sell it as the cloud. And I mean, you can put your puppy in the cloud. I'm sure if somebody out there has a.
That's sad. That is sad. Puppy in the cloud.
Yeah.
Although I did hear a strange rumor that you could take your consciousness and put it into the cloud somehow. There's a cloud consciousness. Or you could put it like in a teddy bear. So you can take like a cloud, like Teddy Ruxpin type of item, and hook it up to your iPhone. You look surprised. You're supposed to be the tech here.
Yeah, no.
You're supposed to know all this.
My conscience really is already in a teddy bear somewhere, and he's humored by this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He's laughing at you right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so who's pushing this cloud stuff? I've heard of Microsoft. Are there any others?
Yeah, Google is probably one of the bigger ones right now. You have their Google Apps, Gmail, all of their Google Docs products. They're doing hosting for small businesses. They have a whole line of products in the cloud for businesses of every size. I mean, there's large corporations trying to get in there and use Google.
Universities.
University of Hawaii, I believe, is on there now. Several. So they're probably one of the biggest pushing for it, along with Microsoft. And then you have the companies who actually produce the products for it outside of them, like VMware. And Microsoft has their line of cloud products that they can sell in, like their Azure product. And Amazon is another major one that pushes for it. So there's a lot of big companies pushing for cloud products.
Well, so what's to prevent, like, why do I need someone who's a technician like you when I can just go straight to office365.com, sign up, do it all myself?
That's really great. You could do that, and you'll get signed up really quickly. Google makes it really easy to sign up. The problem is, if you're a small business, 5, 6, 10 people, you're not one of Google's top priorities. So when it breaks, which is rare, you're just not going to get a hold of them ever. They're paying attention to the people like the universities and the large enterprises and cities that they're trying to get on as clients. But if you're a little 5-person shop and your email stops working, you're going to get a cool little email that says, great, we got your ticket.
Well, in my opinion, though, we should all go to the cloud. And when we talked over the phone the other day, you said that we shouldn't. In my opinion, this is why I brought up the traffic app a little bit earlier. We're just clogged. We're just clogged here in Hawaii. We're trying to get from point A to point B, and guess what? There's only one way. West side to east side, you only have one big way. Well, let's just call it one way.
Yeah.
And I don't see that changing anytime soon. We're building more homes out on that side of the island. We're building more infrastructure. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe, and I think we should all go to the cloud today. We should all work remotely. We should all use voice over IP phones, work from home. You can get creative with that mute button when your kid screams. It's not a big deal.
You'd think so, but no.
You can find ways.
It's a nice thought, and probably in the future it might be headed that way, depending on the industry you're in. There's definitely a time and a place for working from home. Yeah. I'm a technician. All my stuff is online all the time. I could do my job 100% remotely if I wanted to. I don't. I work in an office, and it's because in an office I'm a lot more effective. I have access to all of my tools. It's much quicker. All of my client documentation is at 10 feet away from me. We do use the cloud, though, in part. We offsite our data to the cloud for backups and things along those lines, but as far as working quickly and swiftly accessing data, you don't beat a server 30 feet from you. Even over a high-speed internet connection, there's still latency, there's still problems and dependability issues.
Yeah, but not everyone is as rich and as experienced as you. We have to kind of come up with other ways to slim our operations, and having a server in an office just seems kind of tough. And I know a lot of most of Hawaii's businesses are small businesses. We're talking less than 10 people.
They are, but the cost is actually a misconception. Short-term, cloud is cheaper for a lot of things. Long-term, if you look at licensing costs and the longevity of hardware, over 4 or 5 years, owning a server isn't that expensive. It's actually cheaper than a lot of cloud solutions available.
Yeah,
and that's what we plan for. We don't say you're going to buy a new server every year.
How would you come up with that? How would you come up with that figure? Because so let's just write this down. So you're saying that over 5 years, it's cheaper to have a server than it is to put your stuff in the cloud?
Depending on the business, absolutely, and their application needs. Yeah, I mean, servers aren't that expensive, and if you plan accordingly and you expect your server to live 4, 5, 6 years, which is the length of the warranty you can get on them and things along those lines, hardware can last much longer than that. We plan for 5 years because that's what the guarantee from the manufacturer is. Spread the licensing cost of all your office products and all that stuff over that same duration, and your cost is actually cheaper at the end of that 5 years than it would be in most cases. There are some situations where that is not the case. But for a lot of cases, especially in the 5, 10, 20 user businesses, and that's what we handle primarily.
So a 5-user business should get a system instead of going to the cloud, because that's the exact opposite of everything
well,
that
a
they're being
5-user
marketed
business should
to,
look at
right?
what their needs actually are.
We have to be careful when we just throwing numbers like 5 or 10. What we really need to do is there's an educational curve that happens when somebody comes and say, "Oh, we want to go to the curve. We don't to the cloud." I'm sorry. We just don't. Okay, so we're going to give you a cloud. We need to do an assessment. We need to know what they need is or are, so that we can decide which way they should go.
So you're going against all those multi-million-dollar ads that are on the TV that says, we need to go to the cloud, Batman style,
We're
right?
not going against them. I don't want to
yeah.
say that. What we want to do our due diligence, do the homework to know if it works, because it's specific for each business instead of just saying, hey, this is what we need, give it. So it's like going to the doctor. You say, hey, I have a cold, doctor. Can you write me this medicine because I know what I want? What a doctor will say is, no, let me
I need to do
diagnose.
some tests.
Let's diagnose. Then we decide if you really have a cold or you have tuberculosis, for example. So that's kind of how we come in. We decide, you want the cloud, but let us see how you're running your business. What kind of application? What kind of software are you using? So we see in correlation to the cloud or the traditional way. Maybe an hybrid system will work for you.
A hybrid system. Okay, we're going to talk about the cloud and how it relates to a Prius after the break. So stay tuned. You're listening to Think Tech Friday. Listening to Think Tech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress. and we're here with Jordan Silva and Freddy Ludiazo. They're here from Intech, and we're talking about the counter cloud argument. We're going against the grain. The big advertising giants are telling you need to go to the cloud. I say we need to go to the cloud. They say we shouldn't. So that's what we're talking about here in the studio. But before we get back into that conversation, just a quick friendly reminder, you can give us a call and ask your questions. Our number here is 296-5467. Also, before we jump into the conversation, Jay Fidel, our founder, has an announcement for us. Take it away, Jay.
Yeah, thanks, Attila. August 22nd, it's a Thursday, the end of this month, we're having a program called Don't Be a Friend. Don't be afraid to send your kid or CEO to China. You know, people worry about going to China. They worry about the hacking and the spying. They worry about the civil rights. They worry about all the things you read about in the newspaper about China, and they're afraid. I think a lot of people don't send their kids to China, and they don't send their CEOs to China. That's why we're doing this show. So the question is, should you really be afraid? Come and find out on August 22nd at the Plaza Club. This is a program, a luncheon panel program by ThinkTech and the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, and you're going to hear tales of daring do, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in the People's Republic, the land of the Cultural Revolution. And we have some great people there, great stories. So come on down. hvca.org is where you can register. It's on August 22nd. We look forward to seeing you there. Sai Jian and Xie Xie.
Well, thank you, Jay. I appreciate that. Now, Freddie, do you want to go to China now?
Yeah, I'm ready. That's, you know.
I think it'd be great.
I think you should send Freddie to China.
I think
for sure.
my president's listening. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go to China?
Yeah.
Do you speak Chinese?
Let's expand. I'll learn. I'm a quick learner. I'll learn.
I hear the airports are kind of tough, and you have to kind of go through a different channel to get to China. You can't fly directly from Hawaii to. You have to go through Hawaii to Taiwan.
And then
or Hong Kong.
Whatever it takes.
Well, there you go.
Whatever it takes.
It's the largest consumer market, I thought.
Yeah.
It's opening up. Yeah.
Yep.
In fact, they're having labor shortages there now too. So they are now importing labor, and who knows where that's going next 5 years.
I know they've been stealing a lot of talent from the USA. So.
Well, it's because we're all going to the cloud. So really, it's your fault.
Again.
Definitely our fault.
We put our jobs in the cloud. We put our puppies in the cloud. We put our consciousness in the cloud.
Consciousness.
Suppose we don't put our tax returns in the cloud.
No, I want those in my pocket. So.
Well, tell me about Dropbox being hacked. You hear about that?
Yeah, I heard something about it. It was a breach of some data that people thought was secure, and they were all like, great, I can get this data from anywhere I am, and then they realized other people can get that data. It's not a fun thing when you have your business information out in the cloud, and you think this is convenient. I can get it from my phone. My friend down the road can get it. This is fantastic. And wait, why does this stranger have my data?
Yeah.
It's a frightening thing.
This is why we think everybody should do the homework before they jump into the cloud. This is for the reason why we want to make sure. I want to make sure that everybody understands we are not against the cloud, but we want to make sure that people do the homework before they decide to jump to the cloud.
So does that mean that you have some homework items for our listeners?
Yes, we do. We do.
So what's the first thing they should do before jumping into the cloud?
Make sure it's actually in their best interest. You need to look at what your job is and how do you work. The cloud is great if you're looking for like sharing information amongst a lot of people all over the world and things along those lines. Most people, or not most, a lot of people don't have to do that. We work with a lot of law firms, for example. They do share documents back and forth between other firms during cases and such, but for the most part, they work in an office, they work really long hours, and they need this data quickly. Accessing data that's located somewhere in the middle of Pennsylvania when you're in Hawaii probably isn't the quickest, especially if you need real-time access to that data. It's not, because you're not going to be downloading it, working on it locally, then dumping it back up there. It's real-time saving, it's things along those lines. So if you have a bunch of people doing that and it's a large document, you see problems with that.
And so like Google Docs is not sufficient for this?
It can be. It really depends on the length of the documents and things along those lines, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes they do see delays, especially if they're looking through documents. Google Docs is a bit better than some other solutions. A lot of people use terminal servers, were the big one for a little while, or virtual desktops. You see a lot of latency when using that stuff, and that's what gives you that full. Virtual desktop is a big deal right now. It's you're getting your desktop wherever you are. You log in from home. It's the exact same environment you're working in from your office, from your tablet from the airport in New Zealand when you're down there visiting.
Well, that's what they're doing for schools, right? 2011 terminal server. It's meant for schools, so that I think the intro copy comes with I think 10 terminal server licenses, so they can all connect through thin clients.
Absolutely.
That works out okay.
And it works for a lot of people. If you're a student, when you're not billing out your client $400 an hour, scrolling through and seeing that fraction of a delay and that small minimal
time
delay
billing.
when you're typing stuff.
So wouldn't it be better if it took me 5 minutes longer to do something, then I could bill 5 minutes more?
I think they bill in like 15-minute increments. So as long as they type it for 1 minute, they can move on and they can just bill anyway. But no, it's not. It's really frustrating for a lot of them. They'll type and the word won't appear for another second longer. So they're like, what's happening? They started mashing.
We
at
went
the
through this
keyboard.
too when we were collaborating with Google Docs the other day.
Okay,
You were
okay.
typing things, were sharing, you were by my desk.
Yeah, I
and
remember you were asking,
you
if
asked
I
me, do
saw
you
your
see
notes
this?
yet?
We're like, we
No.
don't see it yet. Then 5-10 seconds later, it appeared.
Things appear.
I went in Hawaii, I mean, same town.
Well,
So,
a good example is if you've ever been on a bad phone connection where you're like, hello, and then you're like, hello, and then you hear them back. There's that it's a tiny delay,
It's
but
that
it's enough to
latency, right?
throw off your conversation a lot. And the same thing happens when you're working. If you're typing and you don't get that feedback that, where's that word that I just typed? You're like, hello, and you tap the key, and then the word pops up, and then those extra keys, and now you're mashing the backspace, and this whole
Yeah.
document's getting jammed up.
But this is new technology. I mean, Office 365 has been out, what, a year?
No, it's been out for a couple of years.
a couple of years. Yeah.
Well, at production.
More than that.
Has it been more than a year now?
Probably.
Okay, so that's. I mean, I got a little Microsoft logo on my shirt, so
Right.
I'm a
Yeah.
fan. And I think it's a great product, but it's just getting started. I
Yep.
mean, the Prius took what, 20 years, 30 years to make. It was funny. I had a roommate in college. He was laughing because he was from Japan. He was laughing at me when I said, "Wow, there's this new thing. It's called the Prius." He says, "I've had that since I've been 5 years old in Japan. They've been making this for decades."
Yeah.
It's. I mean, the reason that the car is so successful today is from trial and error over.
Yeah.
Sure. Did
so much
everybody
time.
say everybody go buy a Prius right now? Get rid of all of your gas powered vehicles. Everybody go buy this car right now, or did they say, what's the resellability going to be in 10 years? How long is that battery going to last? They thought about those decisions because that's financial.
But that's transportation. This is technology.
Yeah,
You and I
technology
both
is-
know that if I take this tablet and try to sell it on eBay 5 years from now, I'm not going to be able to get 10
You're
cents
right,
for
but
it.
this is
It's
the
not gonna
productivity
exist.
of your company. This is your income. Do you want, when you're trying to get work done for a client and you have deadlines to meet, do you want 100 1-second delays when you're trying to just get this document done because you have a court deadline in an hour, or when you have a deadline for your payroll or
I mean,
something?
we're walking straight to the transition, talking about connectivity and bandwidth in Hawaii, because this is the main problem. We can have all the infrastructure in place of, we have computers and cloud, but if we don't have access to them, or we have problem getting access to them, that's where the problem comes in. And I think this is what we have in this platform with the cloud. And connectivity in Hawaii is a problem.
Well, but it's not that bad, and it's going to get better. So you can't
Yeah.
say buy this server and then it's going to last you for, what did you say, 10 years? No,
5.
5 years. 5
Yeah.
years. It's 5 years. 5 years ago, what was connectivity like out here?
Right, but
Awful.
what are you going to lose by having that server for 5 years? You're going to gain efficiencies now, and in 5 years, if it's better, don't buy a new server. Migrate then.
Well, but you're talking also to that top 10%. Yeah, I know you guys service like some very well-established clients. 80% of Hawaii's businesses are 5 employees or less. Real estate agents, independent contractors.
Depending on the industry,
Yeah,
we have some small one that do high power things.
Oh, okay.
We definitely have clients that are five users.
So let's talk to those small guys, the majority, us little people. We have darker colors than some of the
Like
other.
we said, it's situational. We're not anti-cloud. We're anti-making a move that is not well-informed. It's not everybody get on the cloud right now. It's good, you have another option. What is best for you? Cloud is a viable option for some people in some circumstances. Those small businesses, my aunt, for example, she is a bookkeeper. She is a one-person company. She uses QuickBooks in the cloud. That's great for her. She doesn't need a server in her home office, but she also isn't managing 15 people who all work from a central office, and she isn't doing the things that a server required. She works on a single application that is available on a good cloud platform.
Is that locally available? So there are people who are hosting QuickBooks.
No, I'm
locally.
sorry, it's not. It's hosted by.
It's
all
hosted
those
by
mainland.
QuickBooks. in
But
America.
she isn't one of those people who is billing $400 an hour and is agitated by a little glitch in a page being scrolled. She's one of those people who says, I got some stuff to do, and on occasion she gets frustrated because she can't access it and then she has to call QuickBooks and get help, but for her, the benefit is there. She doesn't need the benefit of not having a server and to deal with all the other stuff that goes along with that for a one-person shop is worth it for getting on the phone every once in a while to call QuickBooks. That's not the case for all businesses. So there is a time and a place for the cloud. It's just not everyone all the time.
But you would agree that 80% of these businesses, the small businesses that are 5 or less, the cloud is appropriate.
I wouldn't agree to that without talking to them. But if you want to send those 80% to us, we'll be happy to work with them and find out if it's appropriate.
But you see, I'm trying to figure out, like, the listeners who are on the fence about going to the cloud. They've listened to all the marketing portion.
Here's a good example.
Yeah.
So of those small businesses, a frequent one that we deal with are engineers.
Okay.
That's a terrible idea to put in the cloud because they work with AutoCAD all day or any heavy design application.
HP has got a great streaming desktop.
They do, but
So does
have
VMware.
you ever tried doing AutoCAD through a VDI?
That's exactly what's on their. If you go to the HP Thin Client website, that's exactly what they have on the front there. They have AutoCAD running
From
two
Hawaii?
screens on a thin client.
Really?
Yeah.
We've tried that. It's laggy. It jumps around. They make clicks on their document, things along those lines.
We're not saying it won't be able to do it. Is it effective to do it?
How about Citrix?
Citrix has its place. We definitely have clients that use Citrix. But again, it's not for everyone and not for all applications. And it's been gotten better in the last 2 years for sure, but 3 years ago there was no chance you were running AutoCAD in a Citrix environment. Now maybe, but even then it's a little rough at times.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more during the break that you guys can tune in on. If you go to thinktechhawaii.com, you can see us talking. But for those of you listening on the radio, we do have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You're listening to Think Tech. Live, and you're listening to Think Tech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress. We're here with Jordan and Freddy from Intech. They are the technology guys here in downtown, and they do a lot with businesses in the cloud. And we're talking about how cloud computing is right for some people and wrong for others.
That's
and
right.
we're trying to make those distinctions and figure out where it's appropriate and where it's not. Previously, we were talking about how you can take your data as a small business and put it into the cloud environment. You have access to it anytime, anywhere, but that ends up actually being a little bit more expensive. But there's also that big question mark, which is a few years from now, what's our bandwidth going to be like? Because that seems to be a major obstacle. What is what is our electricity cost going to be? Well, it's going to be higher.
Energy costs, yeah.
Yeah, and of course the technology cost itself is going to continue to go down. If you look at Moore's law, we're going to continue to drop every 2 years.
Yep.
I know it was kind of funny because Moore's law perfectly applied to my cell phone, which is an HTC, which had a single core processor. I think it was 1 gigahertz single core, and exactly 2 years later, dual core 1 gigahertz. So it exactly doubled, just like that. So Moore's law still seems to apply ever since 1968 now.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
So it's good stuff. And during the break, for those of you who were watching us online, you heard us talking about BYOD. Now, BYOD is very similar to bring your own beer, is that it? But it's, it's something else.
Beer, but this is bring your own device around.
Device.
Yeah.
Device.
And BYOD is a hot topic, especially in managed services. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what managed services means to you guys, because I understand every business has different definition of managed services. And then, and maybe Freddie can answer this, then why BYOD, how it falls into that plan.
Well, managed services, it's really picking up all your technology needs and trusting a third party, like our company Intech. That's what we do. We're a managed service provider. So organization will come to us, or we'll go to them, say, hey, come to us, so, let's talk about how we
So you
can.
become the IT department.
Yeah, we become the IT department for organization, and those who even have IT will become kind of an extension of their IT department as well. That's really our core business. That's what we do here in Hawaii, and we're talking about BYOD. I want to say B.
Well, they're not entrusting you with their personal cell phone, but that's what BYOD is, right? Somebody from a company, say it's a nonprofit, everyone who works there is doing work with their cell phones. But if they lose that cell phone and someone picks it up, now all of a sudden they have all their contacts, they have all their email correspondence, maybe even more. Maybe
A lot of our clients do trust us with their personal devices.
Actually, they do.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of our clients, we absolutely put on management policies, and we highly recommend it to our clients who are especially in the medical industry or finance industries. They have a lot of compliance issues they need to keep in mind with. So part of that is if you want your phone to connect to your mail server, you're going to have a pin on it to keep it locked. You're going to have
lock it.
Yeah, his phone is locked down because our mail server says you cannot connect
And
this
that's
unless
our
you accept this
company
policy.
policy. All our cell phones are locked.
So after a number of tries,
It wipes out the
It wipes
device.
out.
Or if you lose your device, it's, hey, you lost your phone, call us first. Don't worry about the device being lost. Let's get it disconnected. Let's get the mailbox cleared out of there. We can get rid of anything. And that's a really good segue because this is one of the situations where the cloud is actually really useful.
That's right.
I love Google.
oh, so you agree with me?
No.
Perfect.
On cell phones.
we didn't.
My cell phone backs up to the cloud.
Freddie's getting nervous because
It's wonderful. It's I go home and as soon as or anywhere I am where my device plugs into a wireless connection, Google Plus says, great, I'm taking a backup of everything for you. So in the event I lost my cell phone and somebody found it, I could go to my office, or remote in wherever I am, I can delete everything on that phone. My company's data is safe, my personal data is safe, and I have a backup of it sitting on Google's cloud.
this is Google Plus.
So all my photos, everything just backs up
Oh,
automatically
okay.
for me.
Yeah, but you got to pay for that.
No,
it's
that's
free.
free.
Up to
I don't know. I don't hit 10 gigs or data.
photos. These things have 16 gig of storage, right?
I take a lot of pictures, man.
Yeah. You don't have kids, do you?
No, absolutely not.
There's like 30 pictures just to get them to smile. So, and then you talk about video. Forget
another
it. It's
game,
over.
yeah.
Ridiculous. No, I stream music. I don't have music on my device anymore. There's plenty of bandwidth on your phone for streaming music. So my photos, the ones that I do take, my contacts, documents that I manage, things like that, they're backed up. These are personal documents, not work documents, but they're on Google Plus. And if I need to from home, I can wipe out this device when I lose it. And I do lose devices on occasion, and I have had to wipe them out. I lost my tablet. We were talking about that in the
Right.
break. One of my tablets got stolen. That's exactly what I did. I was like, great, delete this as soon as it comes back online. So if somebody tried to access any of my data, it would have wiped it out immediately. It never checked back in, which means the person found it and either crushed it and broke it in half because they couldn't get into it, or they just reset it and it wiped out all the data for me anyway. So, but people do absolutely trust us with their personal devices in that regard.
How about private cloud for that reason? So have you used, say, PogoPlug software?
I haven't used it.
Oh yeah, that's good stuff. It's you can build your own private cloud. It can do redundant synchronization from multiple sites. It does all the file storage, everything. You can access it from your remotely, and it's all offsite, right? So that means that even though I'm accessing it from my tablet, I'm not actually storing anything on my tablet,
Right.
which is great because now I don't need so much storage capacity on this tablet.
That's right.
It's also safe in the event you lose your tablet, right?
Right. It's all gone. You know, there's nothing they can do about it. But you know, so BYOD. You mentioned that there's ways to lock it down, and when we started having the conversation, we were talking about the number one item. You were giving us our listeners some homework about whether the cloud is right for them. What was our number one item?
Consistent and fast access to the data would be the number one concern for me.
So make sure you have fast internet. Not using a Starbucks Wi-Fi.
Stable internet also.
Stable internet.
A lot of people don't realize that the internet connections you buy from vendors, they vary. You have normal home internet connections, you have business internet connections, and then you have SLA connections. SLA connections are the ones where the provider is saying, we guarantee your connection will be up for 99.999% of the time.
What's the SLA stand for?
Service level agreement.
Service level.
And you'll notice that one, which one the SLA one is, because it costs more than the cheap, you get 20 megs up for $5 a month or whatever Time Warner's offering for it now. But they're going to guarantee that connection is up. And that's important for a business, especially if your data is not sitting in your office. A lot of businesses don't realize that there is a difference there. So when their connection goes down, they're like, why isn't this up? How long is it going to be? And it's the best effort on the support's part unless you have an SLA. If you have an SLA, it's going to be up, and it's going to be up quickly.
Yeah, but to be fair, even with SLAs, they're going to give you a maximum amount that they're going to credit you. They're like, oh yeah, we've been down for a day. Here's $100. You know, it's not really.
It also gives you grounds to get out of that contract, because a lot of long-term business internet connections require a 3-year term or a 5-year term if you have build-out costs, things like that. So the SLA is a contract that it's a guarantee from that provider. We've had very good success rates with our SLAs from these providers. A lot of them ensure that you're up because they want to meet those agreements. They don't want angry customers, but
and
they're
they want
going
to collect the top dollar, right?
That's right. You're paying them more money, they're going to treat you better. That's just kind of how it is. So that's important. When you're looking at things like cloud connectivity, and if you're one of those companies that require that uptime and access all the time, your connectivity is a big portion of that.
All right, so number one is to have a good internet connection if you want to use the cloud. For
Which means also you need to do your homework in finding the appropriate vendor that's providing good connectivity for you. Not everybody does the same job.
Now, how would you compare our connectivity, say, in the mainland compared to here?
I have a lot of friends in the mainland, and they don't usually complain that their internet goes out when it rains. So I'd say there's a bit better in places, but they also have things like fiber to the curb and FiOS from Verizon and stuff like that is more popular there. Some vendors here are starting to bring it there. It's getting more and more popular. A lot of the buildings have fiber to them now. So we're getting there, but we do have a lot of old infrastructure still. And when the weather hits wrong, or things happen, or a pole gets hit by a car at the outer parts of the island, internet connectivity drops because there's still above ground utility and things like that.
And so it's going to be a while before we even. So SLA really is good for downtown, these places where the infrastructure is already built.
They don't offer SLAs everywhere because they understand that they can't guarantee that in some places. So a lot of the outer islands are a good example of that, where they won't offer you an SLA or
they'll let you know. They'll let you know.
Yeah, they're not going to lie about it. They're going to say, we can provide you this. Yeah. This is the best we can do.
Well, so what's number two?
Control of your data is a big part of that. We have a lot of clients who are have to comply with PCI guidelines. They have to comply with HIPAA guidelines, with SOX guidelines, things like that. So you have to, if you're going to go with a cloud provider, you have to ensure they comply with all these things as well, because it's still your problem if they're not. If they get breached, it's your fault if you didn't look into that appropriately. So you have to ensure that now you're looking to make sure your environment is secure and also their environment is secure.
Yeah, but that's what PCI compliance is. I mean, that's what they go through your intrusion protection scans and all that stuff. That's, by the way, for those of you listening, PCI compliance is it's not peripheral component interconnect, is it? No.
No, it's a credit card processing.
That's it, payment card interconnect. Yeah. So so you have to go in and install utilities inside of your server and into your workstations that allows you to scan your entire internal network so that you can make sure that there's no vulnerabilities.
There's a set of guidelines, and there's a lot of companies that specialize in PCI compliance stuff. And if you're a large organization that has to deal with the high-level compliance, usually you're just paying one of them to make sure that you have them auditing you and you're taking care of the remediation and things along those lines, or you're with a company like us that helps you with that kind of stuff. But it adds another level of complexity, because now you're working with a vendor and you have to make sure is that vendor compliant. And
that's right.
If you're going with a trusted vendor like Google or something like that, most of their applications are. I can't think of one that isn't. But there are other providers that are selling the cloud, because now it's just a completely generic term and everyone wants to sell it. It's like, yeah, I'll take you to the cloud, and I mean, it might be a server in their basement. You don't know what they're selling you. As
That's
far
right.
as you know, you're in the cloud, but you could just be the server he has in a spare bedroom in his apartment somewhere in Kaimuki, and it's just kind of sitting there. As far as you know, it's the cloud, but in reality, it's a box in a room somewhere.
Oh, private cloud.
Private
It's the
cloud.
beginning of a private cloud.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to be cautious about a lot of stuff like that. So going with trusted vendors is important. I mean,
Yes.
it's not just a matter of finding the cheapest cloud. It's if you're going to go with the cloud, make sure it's a good cloud provider.
But to be fair, I mean, according to Gartner from last year, they did a study on what the direction of the cloud is going into. But they predict by 2017, 80% of all businesses are going to be running in a private cloud environment. So that means that they have that private cloud plus they have a redundancy factor that goes into Amazon or whatever.
And that's actually one of the things that we recommend for those who do want to go in the cloud is we've set several of those up. It's getting the best of both worlds. You have the quick access, you have the redundancy, you have all that stuff, and in the event there's a disaster, I mean, we're an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. If a hurricane comes through and destroys your office, you want your data safe somewhere. Or if there's a fire or just something catastrophic happens at your office, it floods. You want to make sure your data is secure, so when you are back up and running, your data is there and you didn't lose more than you had to. So a hybrid cloud solution is a good solution. It's you have your servers, a copy of your data locally, and you back it up and you offsite it. Or you can even have setups depending on your needs. And a lot of companies go into this thinking, yeah, I need 100% uptime all the time, and most companies really don't. They see the number that is associated with that 100% uptime, and they're like, okay, I really can be down for 10%
Freddy's starting to
by
laugh. It's like this number times 10.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right.
I mean,
It sounds good when people talk about when they see the numbers that
Right.
the adjustments that so happen. Then maybe uptime is not as
Yeah.
important as we thought. Then
you-
we adjust. And
Well,
this is
even the 5.9 still gives you 3 hours downtime a day. Yeah.
No.
Oh, per year, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say not
per year. I'm like, okay.
3 hours
Oh,
of
wow.
downtime. Most are okay with that. I mean, turns out most businesses can survive 3 hours of downtime
Yeah.
a year.
Well, some of our listeners can't survive can't survive being away from us for a minute, but they're going to have to because we're going to have to go to a break here. And you're listening to Think Tech. My name is Attila Seress, and stay tuned. We'll be right back after this short break. live, and you're listening to Think Tech Friday. I'm your host, Attila Seress, here with Jordan and Freddy from InTech, and we're having the counter cloud argument. They're telling us not to go into the cloud, as the big media giants have told us to do. No more going to the cloud Batman style. They want us to do some sort of hybridized solution. Now, in this final segment of the show, we only have a few minutes. I'd like to talk about the future. And sometimes being in the trenches allows you to look out every once in a while and see the sunset in the horizon. So tell me, what do you think our society is going to look like from a technological standpoint in 5 years?
I think a lot of people are going to get more deeply ingrained in it. I mean, right now, and in all the aspects of technology, right now people carry around smartphones. I mean, soon it's going to be tablets, and it's going to be, your life is going to be more and more entwined in these devices, and that means your data is going to need to be accessible wherever you are. And some argue that's probably not the best from a work-life separation standpoint, but I like being connected all the time to everything. So I think that it's going to play a bigger and bigger role in everyone's lives, and that includes the cloud.
But how about business? I mean, if everything's cloud, and I don't need office space anymore.
I don't think there's going to be a time where everything's going to be cloud, or that you're never going to need office space anymore.
I want the traffic to thin out already. How do we do this?
I'd suggest moving to a larger place with bigger freeways and less people if you want less traffic. But
so you're saying to move out of this state if you don't want to deal with the traffic?
Oh, it would help. It would help me because there'd be less traffic because you wouldn't be here anymore, and it would also help you because you'd immediately have less traffic. But no.
In case you missed that, Jordan, that was Freddy poking you.
No, it's there's never going to be a time where people don't need an office. Like I said, I can work from home right now. My job allows for it. I don't because I'm more effective while in the office. There's always, even with technology, you can collaborate to an extent, but it's hard to replace sitting 10 feet from someone and bouncing ideas off of each other. Even if you can do it over Skype. We have a Las Vegas office, and we are connected to them every hour of the day via Skype connection. We're a phone call away over a voice over IP system. They press 3 buttons and they're on us. I mean, we share all the same data. It's still harder to collaborate with someone in Las Vegas than it is to collaborate with Freddy when I can walk over to his office and bother him if I need him.
Well, we were talking about how the video game industry has gone in that direction entirely. They have small groups of people that occasionally get together for conferences, and then that's when they actually combine the code into making the video game.
Correct, and those are people who work in siloed sections of something, and they then put everything together. They build pieces, so their small individual teams can go out and build a piece of something. Then all the teams get together and you put together the puzzle, right?
Freddie had something to say.
Well, it's funny that we're talking about traffic as for driving from ever to downtown, but there is also traffic online that we're creating by moving everybody off the road. So we're sending everybody to another traffic, right?
Oh, I see. So it's replacing one evil for the other.
Exactly. So there should be a balance. I think we're moving towards a society where we're going to find balance. And I think that's what Jordan was trying to do. People who need to be on the road should be on the road. People who don't have any business being on the road should be on the road. So because I think we need both. We still need to go to a place of work. Some organizations it's still viable for that. And there are some we can work from the car, from the beach, whatever it is. But I think we're going to find a balance with the technology that we can work from anywhere, but also we can find a central place where we all can come together. So with traffic on the road or at home or on the bandwidth, it's all going to start balancing out. I think that's what the future is leading us to find. Technology is going to provide the balance for both traffic.
Both traffic, and I think we're going to see technology showing up in places where it hadn't been previously.
Yes.
So, for example, service industries. I don't know if you've ever had an appliance repaired. Those guys are high tech. You show up in a van, they have a data connection.
Ready to go.
Right away, they got their CRM. They can process everything right there. They have your entire history of service on your appliance, and a lot of the smaller outfits like plumbers, electricians, some of these other trade crafts, they don't have that kind of technology yet. So those kind of services maybe are opportunities, business opportunities to create the kind of frameworks that you're going to need to have that. And that's the thing is, here in Hawaii, we have a strong blue-collar workforce, and there's a lot of pride and tradition in that, and that's an industry that can be encouraged. And obviously, not everyone can work in a law office where they have terminal servers and stuff, but there's plenty of people who can fix pipes, and believe me, when your toilet's leaking, you want someone to fix your pipes. That's for sure. That's an important job right there.
Yes. But we want it done right. So.
Right, and part of doing it right is having all the schematics of your plumbing, available at your fingertips. And some industries have already gone this way, and it's very interesting. Maybe I can share with you this quick story. I was talking to a pilot, maybe about 2 years ago, and he was telling me, he says this iPad has completely changed the way that we fly. And I said, really? How so? He said, well, whenever we land at an airport, we get this big thick book. It was the flight plan. And it said, when you're coming into this airport, if there's crosswinds, then you got to go to flight plan C. And if there's, fires, then you got to go to flight plan D. And so they'd be coming in on approach, regular on flight plan A. And then they'd say, well, quick, go to flight plan M. And they'd say, oh, no, quick, get the flight book. And, and they're all flipping through pages. Instead, now they just bring up their iPad. They've already downloaded the flight plan. They just go, flight plan M, no problem. One tap, we're
That's
done.
it.
And I think that's a huge shift.
Yeah.
And it's safety, right? It's,
Well, and you're also looking at, from a future perspective, eventually there's going to be a day where they're not pushing flight plan M. It's just going to be there. It's going to say, this is how you're approaching the airport today because these are the conditions in real time. We were talking about Google Now earlier.
Right, or Google Glass.
That's kind of what they're aiming for. They're kind of just giving you information before you even ask for it. My phone tells me what traffic's going to be like on the way home at around 5 o'clock. It's like, it's going to take you 3 minutes longer to get home today. Pilots are going to be, you would think they would be able to do that soon. And that's how technology is going to help you. If you're deploying, staff, you mentioned the plumber, right? Hey, they need to go out to this job site. You're going to be able to track all of your workforce and say, I can get someone there not between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., but I can get someone there at 2:30 p.m. because he's here and he was delayed here, and I can get you an update pretty quickly. I think that's where technology is going in the future, and how that's going to benefit people. It's better scheduling, it's more efficiencies in that regard, because in real time you can track what everybody's doing. Is the person delayed? Is there a traffic jam on the H1 today? The answer is yes. There's always a traffic jam on the H1, but how bad is it? All that stuff. It's gathering all this information from all these different sources, and I think that's where the future of this stuff is going. Is just helping people arrange their lives more effectively.
Make the right decision.
Yeah, I'm always afraid to turn on that maps layer for traffic. Put the little check mark there. It's just red and black.
Yeah, you and I, we live in Eva, so
yeah. But that's part of the price, right?
Yeah.
Any place that's worth living has got traffic.
Well, yeah.
So there you go. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. So it's got the traffic. All right. So we have anytime, any available thing. How about speed? Are we expecting faster speeds in the next few years?
I'm sure there will, but for most people, speed isn't necessarily the issue. It's latency.
Latency.
Yeah, it's how long the traffic is actually taking. It's not the size of the pipe necessarily that's the problem. So you can have a lot of bandwidth. If the things aren't responding quickly, or if it's traveling too long of a distance, there's still a delay.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
have
what the
that
concern
issue
is.
whenever I'm trying to play a YouTube video for my kid. He wants to see Thomas the Tank Engine. He's sitting there queuing for like
Slow.
a minute.
That's right. And it's not because you don't have a sufficient download pipe at your home. Home internet connections are large. They're bigger than a lot of business ones because they can just say you have 20 megabytes and distribute a bunch of your whole neighborhood. But it's two sides, right? Is your bandwidth okay? Is the person you're connecting to okay? Is there any latency between those two locations? What devices is all this traffic being run through? There's a lot of, the internet is a complex thing. It's not just a pipe from one place to another. It routes through all kinds of places. When you're talking data running over the Pacific Ocean, there's all kinds of things that are taken into account.
Well, that's why it's called the cloud, right? It's all those different interconnections. When you stand back a little bit, you see our big blue planet, tiny little spot there in the middle. You start seeing that big cloud forming all around it. That's all of our internet connections.
Right.
And it's all just getting bigger and bigger every day, getting denser.
That's right.
Well, that's about all the time we have today for today's show. Thank you guys so much for coming on the air. Really appreciate
No,
it.
thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Well, if you missed any part of this program, be sure to visit our website, download our podcast, and of course our website is thinktechhawaii.com. And if you like our program, go ahead and like us on Facebook. You can find us there.
Yeah.
Perfect. And of course, this is your host, Attila Seress, and thank you to our chief engineer, Jack Waters. Our account manager is Patrick Leonard. Our board operator, and someone who I think really liked this conversation, Leah Rodriguez. And Jay Fidel, he's the founder of Think Tech. His passion makes our program and all the programs that he produces possible. And thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next Friday, but be sure to tune in Monday with Jay Fidel for more Think Tech. Remember to appreciate life, do good to others, and have a great weekend. Aloha.
Aloha Friday.
Good day.